Looks like we have a new top candidate to be the next head coach of the Denver Broncos. What's up, guys? Welcome to Denver Broncos Syndicate, part of the Sports Syndicate family of channels where we are dedicated to bringing you content about our favorite sports teams. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Before we jump in, guys, be sure to smash the like button on this video as well as subscribe to the channel if you have yet to do so. Those are two free and easy ways that you can help show your support, and it helps tell YouTube to push us out to fellow members of Broncos country just like you and me. Alright guys, so a new top candidate has emerged for the Denver Broncos in their search for the 19th head coach in franchise history. According to Broncos insider Mike Kliss, Demico Ryans, 49ers defensive coordinator, has emerged as a, quote, top candidate for the Broncos head coaching vacancy. Demico Ryans is someone who is a very popular candidate in this year's head coaching cycle. He's done an absolutely incredible job these past two seasons as 49ers defensive coordinator, and it really seems like he's ready to take that next step forward in his coaching career and become a head coach. Now, Demico, of course, used to play a linebacker in the NFL for the Houston Texans for the first several years of his career, then he finished things out in Philadelphia. He then started his coaching career in San Francisco in 2017 as a defensive quality control coach. Then he moved on to inside linebackers coach. And once Robert Saleh left the 49ers to become the head coach of the New York Jets, Demico took over his position as defensive coordinator. This season, the 49ers defense ranks number 2 in fewest yards allowed, number 1 in fewest points allowed, number 2 in fewest rushing yards allowed, and number 19 in fewest passing yards allowed. You can say that the 49ers defense is a top tier unit, and you can definitely say that a big reason for that is Demico Ryans. Ryans has also gotten high praise from players that he's coached previously for his player relation skills, as well as his ability to be tough and hard on his players when necessary. But there's a big difference between a coach like Nathaniel Hackett, who was a big-time players coach, a coach like Vic Fangio, who was just a complete hard ass who had a hard time relating to his players, and then there's someone like Demico Ryans, who's kind of a good middle ground between those guys. He's got that perfect mix of players coach and knows what it's like to be in the trenches, because as recently as a few years ago, he was in the trenches himself. And then also he's got that side of him where he can be tougher on his players and he can be the leader that he's displayed as a player. So all those skills coming together really make Demico Ryans for a really interesting candidate to be the next head coach. And on top of that, when it comes to hiring staff, I feel like Demico Ryans would follow the philosophy of, I'm going to surround myself with people who are the best at their job, and then I'm going to get out of the way and let them do their job. I'm going to surround myself with a veteran staff that can make my job easier. That's what Nathaniel Hackett did not do last season. The only veteran coaches that Nathaniel Hackett really had on his squad were Jerry Rosburg, who was brought in the middle of the season, mind you, and then Dom Capers. Aside from that, his coaching staff was pretty much all puppies. They were all young and inexperienced just like him, and that really showed in the Broncos' overall performance last season. If we are going to go down the well of a first-time head coach again, which I'm not necessarily against, we just need to make sure that we have a veteran staff around him and a competent supporting cast around him to make that job a little bit easier for whoever our next coach is, be it a veteran coach or a first-time head coach like Demico Ryans. As of right now, the Broncos do not have any second interviews scheduled, but if the Broncos do want to give Demico Ryans a second interview, they will have to wait until after the NFC Championship game, when the 49ers are either eliminated or they've got that little bye week between the championship game and the Super Bowl. This rumor all comes as the first head coaching domino actually fell today when the Carolina Panthers went out and hired former Colts head coach Frank Reich to be their next head coach. Reich was someone who was popular amongst the Denver media for the Broncos job, but ultimately he was never interviewed by the team. Here's the list of guys who have been interviewed by the Broncos so far. Current defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, former Saints head coach Sean Payton, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, 49ers defensive coordinator Demico Ryans, of course, Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, who later announced that he's staying at Michigan, former Colts and Lions head coach Jim Caldwell, and former Stanford head coach David Shaw. As far as Demico Ryans is concerned, he has also met with the Texans, but opted to cancel his interviews with the Cardinals and Colts so he could focus on game prep for San Francisco's game last week against the Cowboys. Apparently, the Colts still want to meet with Demico Ryans for their head coaching spot, but at this point in time, it seems like the Broncos are favorites to land Demico Ryans. Now then, of course, there's the Sean Payton angle of all of this. Based on what we've seen so far, the two top candidates for Sean Payton's services, the Broncos and the Panthers, now seem to be going in different directions. I don't know if maybe Sean Payton didn't interview well, or perhaps the teams are just realizing that the cost to get him would be too great. Perhaps New Orleans is really holding firm on they want multiple first-round picks for him. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Sean Payton, but based on what we've seen so far from very reputable sources, it seems that the Broncos are going in a different direction, and the Panthers have already gone in a different direction with the hiring of Frank Reich. So the longer and longer this process gets drawn out, I feel like the top candidate for the Broncos is not Sean Payton, but actually Demico Ryans. I also feel that the longer this drags out, the higher the probability is that Sean Payton ends up staying at Fox for one more year and then seeing what's available in next year's head coaching cycle. He'll still be under contract with the Saints until the 2024 season is up, but at least next year he'll be able to maybe negotiate some less compensation than what would have been previously, and perhaps he could find a better opportunity next season. So that's kind of what I feel like is going on with Sean Payton. I feel like as more and more time goes on, the less and less likely that it's going to be Sean Payton takes a job this year. So now I'm going to say that Demico Ryans is the top target for the Broncos as of right now, followed by Dan Quinn. Then I'd also keep guys like Jim Caldwell and David Shaw in the mix. I really feel like at this point in time, the top two targets for the Denver Broncos are going to be Demico Ryans and then Dan Quinn. But I could be wrong. They could come out of left field and hire someone else. All this Demico Ryans stuff could just be a smokescreen perhaps, but based on where this is coming from, Mike Klis is the most tied-in insider with the team. Him and Benjamin Albright basically are the two guys that you look towards for Broncos news. So based on where this is coming from, this could either be a smokescreen by the Broncos, or this could be legitimate information that Demico Ryans is indeed the Broncos' top target. So I'm curious, Broncos country, do you guys believe that this is a smokescreen, or do you believe that this is actual legitimate information that Demico Ryans is the Broncos' top target? Also, if Demico is indeed the Broncos' top target, how would you feel about him being our next head coach? I know there's a sector of Broncos country that does not want to go down the first-time head coaching well again, but I feel like if we are going to go down that well again, it needs to be someone like Demico Ryans, who is respected, has the X's and O's background, has the player relations background, and would surround himself with a veteran staff that's experienced and will be able to help make his job a little bit easier. So I'm curious, Broncos country, if Demico Ryans is indeed the guy, how would you feel about it? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. And while you're at it, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for even more Broncos coverage. And for now, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.